What's going on, everybody? Glad you're here. You are listening to the Genuine Leadership Shift. I'm Austin James Crawford, and we're just here to create a space to talk about some real leadership, hard truths, and the work it takes to do the right thing and be a great person. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get into this week's episode, I think I just want to say something plainly. Hospitality isn't something that you just turn on when the room gets busy. You know, we talk a lot about excellence, and excellence is the same thing, right? It's not a switch that you just choose to turn on. Honestly, my opinion is it should never be turned off, especially if it's something within you or where your values lie. Performance does not show up by accident. And you are not going to drift into great execution. You're not going to stumble into a great culture. And you're definitely not going to accidentally lead well under pressure. I think in reflecting here, a lot of times, most people, right, they want the outcome of high performance and they want what's great, but they're not willing to use or do or put in place the discipline to produce it. And so today's episode is what I want to kind of talk about is really what it actually takes to perform consistently. Not when you're just motivated or not when things are going really smooth, but I think when it's repetitive, when it's demanding, and when it gets hard. So what I want to kind of break down a little bit is belief, commitment, preparation, execution, and competing. Competing with yourself and also competing for the people around you. I'm not looking to create hype. This is just the work, guys. So I'm excited about it. Stick around. Let's get into it. All right. And welcome back to the Genuine Leadership Shift. If today is the first time that you are catching up with us here, I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the show. I am really, really glad that you are here. And if you're joining us again, I want to say I appreciate you following along and getting comfortable with us. So again, my name is Austin James Crawford. I am a hospitality leader, a coach, a father, a husband, and I am really just somebody who believes deeply that leadership is not about how you perform when things are easy. It's about how you show up when consistency is required. And season 1 here has been, like we've talked, a lot about foundation, identity, integrity, presence, discipline, the inner work here. And that makes external performance possible. And so that's why I think today's episode really, really matters. And it's because it's where mindset and performance collide. Leadership is hospitality. Hospitality is leadership. Hospitality is parenting. Hospitality is marriage. Hospitality is literally just how you show up for the people in your life consistently. And today we're going to break that down. We're going to break down what true hospitality actually is and how it applies much farther and beyond the restaurant space. So this one is important. Let's dive into it. Well, let's get into it here with, I think, starting where it starts. Every foundation has to begin with belief, right? Belief as ownership. That is where it all starts. And I don't mean belief in the sense of optimism. I don't mean enthusiasm. I don't mean having a good attitude when you feel like it, right? Belief has to be ownership. And hospitality only works when that belief is chosen. There's a moment, I believe, that all of us face, usually earlier on as we're developing, but sometimes much later. And that realization is that no one is coming to enforce belief in your vision or in your direction. You know, nobody's coming to enforce this for you. No one is going to make you care. No one is going to make you reset the room. No one is going to make you slow down your tone when you're irritated. That's belief. Belief shows up on a random Tuesday when you're tired, when you're distracted,
when you're frustrated, and then you still decide, this standard right here belongs to me. Some people want the identity of hospitality without the actual responsibility of some of it. They like the title, they like the language, they like the optics, perhaps. But real hospitality as a mindset means I believe this is who I am, right? Even when nobody is watching, even when it costs me effort, even when it would be easier to not. Okay? Belief is not optimism, it's ownership. If hospitality only shows up when it's convenient, it is not a mindset. It's a mood. It's an emotion you're feeling. And I just want to put this reflection out there. Have you actually chosen this standard? Or are you just maybe standing near it? You got to believe in your vision. You got to believe or leave. Get out of the way. Get out of your own way. Everything great, everything successful that is coming your way has to start by owning your ability to believe in what you're doing. Now, when you believe, and you believe that hospitality is a mindset, and you believe in your vision, and you believe in the direction that you're headed, commitment, being able to commit becomes simple. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit too here is commitment as integrity. Belief without commitment, it's going to fade quickly. Commitment is where belief turns into integrity. And here's the truth I think that a lot of us feel, sometimes maybe hard to admit, but half commitments, right? They always show up. They're not always like loud and in your face. They'll show up quietly. It'll show up when the standards change, depending on who's working. It'll show up when feedback is given and then no follow-up happens. It'll show up when leaders enforce some expectations only when they're present and then ignore them when they're not. That inconsistency creates so much confusion. And the confusion, guys, you ever seen it? You want to talk about a way to kill performance, and it's going to be with confusion. If you're committed only when it's convenient, then you're not committed at all. You're just participating. Let that sink in, because a half commitment will always show up. Commitment means that you don't get to pick which standards matter today. You don't get to care deeply only when it's busy or when it's visible to somebody else. Your integrity, that is a commitment. And that is a commitment without an audience. So I'm going to ask you, where are you talking commitment, but maybe just modeling convenience? And what do we mean about that? I think maybe we'll slow it down here just for a second, because I think that the question, are you talking commitment but modeling convenience, it sneaks up on us. It sneaks up on great leaders. This isn't about hypocrisy. It's really about the fatigue that we all feel. It's about the emotional bandwidth. It's about choosing the path of least resistance after a long day. We tell ourselves that we're being gracious. We tell ourselves that we're picking our battles. And sometimes, yeah, that's true. But other times we're actually not choosing grace. We're just choosing ease. And the difference here matters, guys. Grace is an intentional choice. Convenience is a reactive one. Grace will protect your standards, but the convenience, right, choosing the easy way, that is going to quietly lower it. You say that standards matter, but then you just let something slide because addressing it would be uncomfortable. Or you say that consistency is important, but then your tone changes based on how tired you are today. You scream from the rooftop that culture matters, but then you avoid a conversation because you just don't want to deal with that tension. None of those things make us bad leaders. It makes us very human, and being human is important, but leadership asks us to take notice where comfort is starting to replace our clarity. Teams don't learn standards from what we tell them to do. They learn them from what we actually tolerate. And when convenience becomes a part of your pattern and part of my pattern and a part of our pattern, the confusion is going to follow so quickly. So this isn't about you being harder on them. It's honestly just about being more aligned. The question isn't, am I enforcing this perfectly? No. It's more framed like this. Am I modeling what I say I believe? And we already talked about that, right? Belief has to be present. And you have to believe, even when it would be easier to not. That is where commitment files in and is a part of your integrity. And that is ultimately where hospitality as a mindset actually lives. And in how we're talking about our performance, in order to perform well, you have to prepare well. So talking about preparation as respect, I think that that's important here because before performance ever begins, you have to prepare. Preparation isn't being anxious ahead of something that you need to do. Preparation is honorable. Unprepared leaders are the ones that they just rush through things. But prepared leaders, they actually slow down the room a little bit. The unprepared leader is going to be reactionary, right? They're going to react so quickly. But a prepared leader is somebody that is anticipating the next move. And this is where like a concept of preparing and showing up, because I see a lot of people at work who do an incredible job. And I know that they're doing the work and they are nailing it, from 9 in the morning to 5 at night, or 9 in the morning to 9 at night. But I would ask and I would encourage you to think about when we are preparing and we are being honorable to ourselves in preparation of taking care of others, what are we really focusing on the other 9 to 9 or the other 5 to 9? Right? So this whole idea about preparing when nobody is watching, that's just a good reminder. Something to think about, something to consider. How are you preparing your day tomorrow? What are you doing behind the scenes? Right? So that you aren't just reactionary, so you aren't just rushing. Mental preparation, physical readiness, emotional regulation, these are all things that sometimes have to be done in that 5 to 9 or that 9 to 9. Preparing tells people I care enough to be ready before my people actually need me. And I think great hospitality, right? It doesn't start at a table. And it starts well before you even walk into a room. And that's where the respect part comes in, right? Preparation is respect. Respect for yourself, respect for other people, Where are you relying on talent instead of your preparation? Because a lot of us, we're good at what we do. And we're able to perform and we're able to nail the details on the front end. And sometimes that's just talent. Right? So I encourage you to think a little bit more about your preparation on the backside. That one hides behind confidence. The talent's going to work until it doesn't. It lets you move fast. It helps you recover on the fly. Makes things look good, makes things look smooth. But over time, talent without any sort of preparation, you actually become a liability. Now you're reacting instead of anticipating. You're relying on your instinct, right? Instead of intention. And when pressure hits, you feel rushed, not ready. Man. And that's the difference I think a lot of people miss. Talent is what you can do, but preparation is what brings you to the table. Preparation is what you bring with you. Preparation is that voice inside your head that says, I've already thought about this. I've already done the reps. I'm not asking this current moment to just save me. Unprepared leaders, they just go running into a room hoping that their personalities will carry the rest of the day. And a lot of times, for a lot of us, it does for a little bit. But I want to encourage you a little bit to just slow that room down, right? Create some calm, create some clarity, and create some trust. And that happens before anything is ever said. Now, I want to be really clear that perfection is not the end goal of preparation. Back to what I've already said here. It really, really just means respect. It's respecting the people that you're about to lead. It's respect for the work that you do. And it's respect for the moment that you're stepping into right now or tomorrow. This isn't a call to overthink things. It's a call to just stop winging what matters. I want you to ask yourself this question. What moment, right? What moment do I keep figuring out in the moment? Because I think that right there is exactly what deserves a little bit more intention ahead of time. If preparation is present, I promise you your execution is going to get way easier. And that's where performance stops feeling reactive and really starts feeling repeatable. And that's great leadership, because you want others to be able to repeat what you're teaching and what you're doing. And they're watching us right now. So you believe, and you're committed, and you're prepared. But how well are we executing? How do we execute? I think that thinking about excellence, that's where everything gets exposed. Excellence is not a switch. Execution here doesn't just rise to the moment. I think that execution reveals what we have prepared for, what we have rehearsed. Common misconception here is that excellence somehow has to equal intensity, but I don't think that that's true. Execution and excellence, it's a habit. Because when the pressure hits, you are not going to automatically just miraculously become disciplined. What's going to happen is you've got to fall back on what you've built. And I know that I've learned this personally the hard way, thinking, I can just turn it on instead of doing the actual daily work, the daily preparation, being committed to something, believing in my vision. That's just going to make the execution automatic. Excellence here, guys, is not emotional. It's literally procedural. Our guests, our customers, our clients, they feel execution well before anything that we ever say. Our teams, they're going to feel consistency before any sort of motivation. So I want to go back here, right? Back a little bit to excellence is not a switch, because I want to encourage you to reflect on what habits are we falling back on, right? When pressure shows up. The pressure doesn't create your behavior, right? It honestly just exposes it. When things are calm and we all look disciplined, when things go smooth, right? We all sound super patient. But the pressure is going to strip away intention, and it exposes rehearsal. You don't just rise to the moment, you fall to whatever that you have practiced and prepared for and executed the most. You ever had those moments where the pressure just feels so frustrating? That's why. They don't show us these moments of pressure. They don't show us who we want to be. They are going to show us exactly what we have trained ourselves to be. That's in the get in there and get it done. The get in there and put forth the most excellent effort. Execute. For a lot of people, I think the habit that they thrive on the most is the rushing. For some others, maybe it's controlling. Maybe for you, it's shutting things down. But maybe for others, it's getting sharp. It's getting direct. It's getting rude, reactive, impatient. And I'll tell you what, none of those habits started because the pressure started. They were built long before, quietly, over time, in small repeated moments that you have just allowed. And I think that is why excellence is not emotional, right? It's a procedure. The goal is not to eliminate any sort of pressure that's going to come in our ways, because we're going to have them all. I mean, you probably have some going on right now. You probably walked out of a room where the conversation or the pressure was really thick and really deep. Those things are not going to go away. But our goal is to build the habits that are strong enough to actually carry us through those moments. So I think instead of asking, well, why did I react that way? Man, what did I need you to stop for a second and actually let's ask ourselves right now, what was my habit that I just fell back on? Awareness, right? That's the first part here. And I think that if we're able to recognize and be aware of the habits or the bad habits, right, that we tend to fall back on, maybe that awareness will help us the next time pressure builds. And maybe you're going to get an opportunity, right? You're going to have the choice not to be perfect, but maybe to just be a little bit more intentional than we were the last time. Now, I think about hospitality, and, we talk a bit about hospitality as a mindset. And I do believe that this industry, or just this mindset in and of itself, teaches us, if we're paying attention, right, that the room, it doesn't need you to be better than anyone else. What it needs you to do is just be better than you were yesterday. And in hospitality, competition isn't about outshining, I think, the person next to you. It's about raising the standard without breaking a tone. Really, if we think about it, it's more about just doing your job so well, so consistently that the people around you actually feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more steady, not smaller. And I think that that's where sometimes the word compete or competition gets misunderstood. But the healthiest form of competition is never about ego. It's about our growth individually and as a team. And that's the shift, right? That I want to try to make here is, moving from execution into a competitive nature, because it is a huge pillar in our performance success. But when competition is rooted in hospitality, genuine hospitality, connection-driven leadership, it stops being about comparing ourselves to one another. And it starts to be a little bit more about our responsibility to each other. So let's talk about, competing in the right way, right? Not against each other, but competing with ourselves. Competition, like I said, if it's done wrong, it just continues to breed ego, and that's not what we want. Competition in the right way should be breeding growth. Right? That's the honesty part of this. It's not about comparing each other. In this industry, in the team that I'm working with, right, we talk all of the time about better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today. What that means is cleaner habits. That means sharper execution. That just means a more consistent leadership tone. I mean, yeah, sales matter. Performance, it matters. Results, that all matters. But none of it matters at the cost of our culture. And so I think the healthiest competition is really just asking yourself a simple question. And that question is, did I raise my own bar today? You got to compete with yourself. Okay? Where can you raise your own standards this week? Silently, quietly, thinking about tomorrow. Well, I'm betting that you can raise your own standard, not publicly and not performatively, but quietly, right? Because some of the most meaningful leadership work that we do, guys, nobody's clapping for. And if you've been around long enough, you know what that feels like. But quiet standards, they don't need to announce themselves, right? Your standards and how you raise your own bar, that is all a reflection of how we've prepared. That's a reflection of how we've executed, what we're committed to, what we believe in. And that all happens when nobody is checking in on you. Right? So your standard that you're going to set, it's really in how you respond instead of react. It's maybe in how you follow through when you said that you would. Because it's probably not easy. It's just one more thing to do. But follow through, doing what you say you're going to do, man, that's a huge standard. But find that standard and raise it. Hold your tone steady. Hold that tone steady even when you're frustrated. Maybe it looks a little bit like closing up that loop that you've been avoiding, right? I don't know. Maybe it looks a little bit more like doing that little thing and doing it right and doing it well and doing it with enthusiasm and integrity. Regardless of if somebody gives you an attaboy or an attagirl at it. There's nothing weak about that. That is some strong discipline. And it's those types of disciplines, to do it without the applause, that compounds. And hospitality has always understood this, at least for me, and reflecting on really how this whole thing plays together. The guest doesn't know how many invisible decisions that actually led to the experience that they felt, nor should they. But whether or not they're going to know that they felt cared for. And I'm going to tell you, leadership, little secret here, it works the same way. People may never see the quiet standards that you raise, the quiet standards that you uphold, but they will certainly feel the consistency that that creates for them. So stop looking for recognition this week. Look for alignment. Because every time you raise your own standard, personally, quietly, you are strengthening the kind of leader that people are going to trust. And that is going to allow you to navigate the pressure of tomorrow. All right, so maybe while we sit with that question, where you can raise your own standard this week, I don't want to turn this into a long list, because none of this is about fixing everything at all. It's honestly, like we've done episode after episode, it's really about choosing one place, right, where alignment matters. You know, it's one moment, it's one habit, it's one decision where you just decide to say, this is how I show up now. So here's the challenge for this week. This week, I don't need you to try to do everything. Let's just pick one. Maybe this is one belief that you really need to clarify, one vision that you need to believe in. Maybe it's one commitment that you need to stop half doing. Maybe it is a preparation habit. Maybe it's executing. Maybe it's doing what you say you're going to do. Maybe it's that habit. And maybe it's here in competing with yourself, that habit to do that rather than compete with somebody else. That's it. It's that simple. It's not simple because the work is small. It's simple because I think focus matters the most. When we choose small, intentional discipline, that's what creates the performance that we put, the output that we hone in. And then when you can repeat that discipline day in, day out, it's going to stop feeling just like effort. And it's going to be who you are. That right there is how standards become sustainable. In hospitality, it is not your personality. It is a mindset, and it's definitely not an industry. But hospitality is practice. It's practicing how you show up. The effort is sometimes going to be invisible, but hospitality is also the consistency that is required. Find a way to be hospitable in everything that you do. Hospitality is the performance of who you are, but performance isn't about trying harder. It's literally about living the way that you say you believe. And on that note, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for doing the work. And thank you for choosing discipline when it would be easier to not. And if this work resonates with you, please make sure that you're following the show And please make sure that you share it with somebody that you care about. And as always, wherever you lead, in whatever room you walk into next, do the right thing and be a great person. This has been an episode of the Genuine Leadership Shift. If you found connection in this episode, we would appreciate a share. We would appreciate a follow along, and make sure you get this out to the people that you feel need to hear it too. We're looking to grow a community. We're looking to create presence. And honestly, I'm just looking to learn and grow alongside with you. So give us a follow, give us a like, and let's build this together. Do the right thing and be a great person.